Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very last part of packet number 2. We're going to do the last 4 pages of packet number 2. Again, this kind of goes with part 4, so if you have not watched part 4, you might want to do so because this may confuse you if you do not. So we're going to do a little bit together. I'm going to have you do a little bit on your own, and we'll go from there. So, number 4. It says a children's museum charges $10 admission for the first visitor and then $5 for each additional visitor in the group. So first things first, I'm going to write my equation. So I start with $10, add it on to $5 for each visitor. So we're taking our visitors minus the first one because we don't want to pay extra money. So that equals the in dollars. So we're going to look at visitors in dollars, and we're going to do our visitors first because it's easier to put V in first. So I'm going to have 10 plus 5 times 1 minus 1. So when we do that, we find out that it is $10. So $10 for one visitor. As it states, $10 for the first visitor. Makes sense. So now for 3 visitors, you would have 10 plus 5 times 3 minus 1, and when you do that, you get $20. So it's $20 for 3 visitors. So now we're going to figure out, okay, how many visitors is the money amount? So I'm going to have 10 plus 5 times B minus 1 equals $25. First things first is I'm going to subtract 10. You're left with 5 times B minus 1 equals 15. Then I'm going to divide by 5. B minus 1 equals 3. And then you're going to add 1. So you find out your visitors equal 4. So it is $25 for 4 visitors. And now, how much is $40? So I'm going to have 10 plus 5 times B minus 1 equals 40. So I'm going to subtract 10. You're left with 5 times B minus 1 equals 30. Divide by 5. B minus 1 equals 6. Plus 1. You find out your visitors is 7. So it's 7. For 7 visitors, it's $40. Now I'm going to have you graph on your own. Okay? So graphing on your own, and I also want you to do A and B on your own. So A says, how much will a group of 14 visitors cost? So you have the visitors, you're trying to find the cost. So you would use one of the first 2 examples. For B, it says how many visitors are in a group if the admission cost is $50. So for this one, you would use one of the longer versions. Actually, I'm good with no graphing, so let's not graph. I just want you to figure out A and B. Let's just do that. Okay, looking at number 5. Number 5. A party store charges $18 for 6 foil balloons and $2 for each additional foil balloon. So here's my equation. 18 plus 2 times B minus 6 equals D. Now in this case, we said minus 6 because it's subtracting those first 6 balloons that you got already. So let's look. We're going to start with 7 and 8 because it's easier to put in B than find D for now. So I have 18 plus 2 times 7 minus 6. And when we do this, you get $6. So it is $6 for 18 balloons. Oh, whoops, I'm so sorry. I'm on the wrong one. What the heck? I'm sorry. It's 20. First mistake. It is 20. So it's $20 for 7 balloons. Excuse me. Okay. Next, you're going to take 8 minus 6 this time. When you do this, it is $22. So it is $22 for 8 balloons. Okay. Now figuring out the money. So starting with the first one, I'm going to have 18 plus 2 times b minus 6 equals 18. Okay, subtract 18 first. You're left with 2 times b minus 6 equals 0. Divide by 2. You have b minus 6 equals 0. And then you're going to add 6. So you get b equals 6. So for 6 balloons, it equals $18. I just jumped ahead, that's all. Okay, and last for $26. So I have 18 plus 2 times b minus 6 equals 26. Subtract 18 first. You're left with 2 times b minus 6 equals 8. Divide by 2. B minus 6 equals 4. Add 6. And you get 10. So for 10 balloons, it is $26. Don't graph, don't worry about it, but I want you to try and figure out A and B. So for A, it says, what is the total cost for 16 balloons? So you'll do one of the first two examples. And then B says, how many balloons does it cost for $50? So you'll do one of the last two examples. Okay. Flipping it over to page 14, numbers 6 and 7. So 6 says a submarine is diving at a rate of 0.25 meters per second. So diving means it is going down. So that is a negative amount, okay? So basically I have a negative 0.25 per second equals the meters. Okay. So putting in seconds first, I'll just take negative 0.25 times 8. And when you do that, you get negative 2. So it is negative 2 meters. In 30 seconds, it is negative 7.5 meters. And now we do the opposite. So I have negative 0.25 s equals negative 9.25. We're going to divide by negative 0.25. And you're left with s equals 37. So in 37 seconds, you go down 9.25 meters. And now to do negative 10 meters. Again, divide by negative 0.25 on both sides. And when you do that, you find out it is 40. So in 40 seconds, you go down 10 meters. Again, graphing is not needed, but I want you to answer A and B. So what is the submarine's depth after 24 seconds? So you'll use the first two. And how many seconds if you go down 50 meters? So you'll use one of the last two. Okay, number 7. Raul is considering a new internet service provider. He has been using his current provider for 4 months and has already paid $160. His bill averages $40 per month. Okay, so he's already at $160 and he's adding on $40 per month. And that's going to equal the total amount. So, let's say it's a month ago. So when it's negative, that means a month ago. So 1 month ago. So 160 plus 40 times -1 equals. When you do that, you find out it's $120. So a month ago, he was only paying $120. He only paid $120. Okay? When it's positive, it's saying it's adding on 2 more months. So 2 months, not ago, but the opposite of go is in the future. So 2 months in the future, he will be paying $240. Okay? So now when we have our dollar amount, we're trying to find our months. So I'm going to have 160 plus 40m equals 160. So subtract 160 first. You're left with 40m equals 0. Divide by 40. M equals 0. So it's 0 months. So, and that makes sense because that's what we started with. We started with $160. So at the starting point, he's at $160. So now it's like, okay, how many months is 200? So we're going to do 160 plus 40m equals 200. So subtract 160 on both sides. 40m equals 40. Divide by 40 on both sides, and you get m equals 1. So in 1 month, from where he's at, he's going to be paying $160. Okay? Don't worry about graphing. I want you to answer A and B. So it said, when did the cost of Raul's internet exceed $100? Okay, so you have the dollar amount. You're trying to figure out the months. So you'll use one of the last 2 examples. Then it says, what had Raul's internet cost 3 months ago? So remember, ago means in the past. So that's a -3. So using that is one of the first 2 examples. Okay, moving on to page 15. It says an airplane is descending. What does that mean? Descending means going down, so it's a negative, from 35,600 feet at a rate of 3,200 feet per minute. Okay, so it says A, B, C, D, and E. All right, A says identify the 2 quantities that would change, identify independent and dependent, and define variables. B says write an equation. C is what is the unit rate of change. D is graphing, and E is figuring out how to use the graph to answer your question. So I'm going to write the equation first because that's always where I like to start. So when it says you're descending from, that's your starting point. So I have 35,600. And we said descent means you're going down, so minus the 3,200 feet per minute. Okay? Equals your altitude. So A for altitude. So that's my equation. So now looking at A. Independent means that it's not going to change. So what's not changing is, I'm sorry, I had to like look at that for a second. Let me rephrase that. Independent means that it doesn't depend on something else in order for it to change. Okay, so independent You know what? Now I need to look this up. Now I'm like wondering if I said that all wrong on my own thing. Because I always thought y was independent and x was dependent. And I think I remember where this is. It was in my textbook. I'm actually going to have to do some editing on these last few just because I'm getting like tired. Oh, I like recording and all that good stuff. So we're almost done though. Make it short. Okay, it was module 3, topic 3, and it was in the post test, I believe. Independent is minutes, dependent is altitude. Interesting. Okay, so I had them backwards. I'm glad I checked. All right, independent means that it doesn't depend on anything else to change. So our independent is the amount of minutes. So the time. So independent is the minutes. And we're using M for minutes. Okay? The dependent means that it will change based on the independent. So what's changing is our altitude. So our altitude changes every time our minutes change. So that's why it's dependent. And that's going to be represented by A. So it says, in this problem, what is the unit rate of change? So thinking back to remember our y equals kx. So thinking back to that. Looking at our equation now, we know that our k is this 3,200, but it's not just 3,200, it's a negative 3,200, because remember it's descending, so when it's going down it's a negative. If it was a positive, like let's say it said it's going up 3,200 feet, then it would just be 3,200. Okay, so now it says draw the graph. So let's just make up some points to see where we're at. So let's just go. It looks like we're going, so let's just make a table. Just going to make a table. So we're going to say M for minutes, A for altitude. So let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just go 1 through 5. So this is going to be fairly easy. You're just going to type this in your calculator and you're putting M into the problem. So in 1 minute, you're at 32,400 feet. Okay. So now in 2 minutes, you're at 29,200 feet. In 3 minutes, you're at 26,000 feet. In 4 minutes, you're at 22,800 feet. And in 5 minutes, you're at 19,600 feet. You can also just tell that you're going down each time by 3,200. Remember when we talked about the change in y and the change in x to figure this out? You can figure this out by doing that, okay, to find out your constant. So if I did that, I would take 0.2, so minus 0.1. And when you do that, you get negative 3,200 over 1. So your constant is negative 3,200. Okay, so now we can plot this. So looking at 1, I'm at 32,400. So that is right. Make sure I'm on the right line. That is right here. Okay. 0.2, I'm at 29,200. I'm going to say that's like right here. I don't know. That looks right. Number 3 is 2,600. 4 is 22,800. 5 is right there. So you'll see that it's going down in a straight line. All right. So now it says use the graph in part D to determine approximately how long it would take for the airplane to descend 18,000 feet. So you can use the graph if you want, but you can also just use what we already know and just place it into our problem. So our problem, remember, is 35,600 minus 3,200 m equals 18,000. So we're going to subtract first. You're left with a negative 3,200 m equals negative 17,600. Divide each side by negative 3,200, and you find out that it is 5.5 minutes. So in 5.5 minutes, you reach 18,000 feet. And if you want to write minutes, you can. Okay. Page 16, last one for today. Juan is designing a garden for his backyard. The table shows the possible dimensions of his garden. Let L represent the length. Write an equation to represent the length of the garden in terms of width. So I just want you to look at the table to start with, and let's find a pattern. When I look at 4 to 7, it's going up 3. 5 to 8, going up 3. Going up 3, going up 3, going up 3, going up 3, going up 3. So it is plus 3. So the length equals width plus 3. So when it says write an equation to represent the length in terms of width, that's what it means. So B says calculate the length if the width is 15 meters. So length equals, placing in 15 for W, 15 plus 3. Well, 15 plus 3 is 18. So it is 18 meters long. If the length is 20 meters long, what is the width? So now you're going to have 20 equals W plus 3. Well, the opposite of add is subtract. So now you have 17 meters. So if it's 20 meters long, it's 17 meters wide. So now it says calculate the area if it is 7.5 meters wide. So in order to find area, remember area for a rectangle is length times width. So in order to find the area, we have the width, but now we need the length. And we know length is width plus 3. So 7.5 plus 3 equals 10.5 meters. So now we have our length. So we can do length times width. So we're going to have length times width. And when you do 10.5 times 7.5, you get 78.75 meters squared. Okay. The very last thing I want you to do on your own, you're just using this equation here to fill in this table and to graph. Okay, so that is on your own.